Healthcare is too expensive. Employers are offsetting costs onto their employees. Who will make health benefits affordable for hard-working Americans and their families?
You will! This is the Empowering Plans Podcast, a show dedicated to helping you once again emphasize the benefits in your benefit plan. Now prepare to learn,
Plan,
save,
and protect with the Phia Group.
Hello, everybody. And yes, this is the voice from the past. It has been a long time since I've done one of these podcasts. And I thought to myself yesterday, I'm like, why is it? I actually went back just to see, how I sounded, what I talked about in the early days of doing the Empowering Plans podcast. And they were hilarious. I mean, we had some really good times, a lot of fun. I would say we probably put entertainment in front of education on many of the times that I would be hosting the show with Ron or with Brady or whoever. And today, I have the luxury and privilege to be working with Corey Crigger, who is in our Louisville office. And once you hear his voice, you'll know exactly that he's definitely not from Boston. But it's great doing this with you, Corey. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great, Adam. And, maybe under normal circumstances, I would be very excited to be doing this podcast with you, but I have a feeling I'm about to get a little bit of comeuppance here.
I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm going to put you down. I'm not going to make fun of you too much, but it's pretty pathetic what happened this past weekend. And if everyone wants to know, I'll share really quickly, and then I'd love some color commentary from Corey, if you wouldn't mind. Just so everyone knows, Corey and I have a history going back a few years where I literally bet against him every time. Every time it's March Madness, for those of you that don't know, Corey is a massive University of Kentucky basketball fan. I think all sports, but I know basketball is probably the biggest. And so the past couple of years, if you haven't noticed, if you've been living under a rock, Kentucky hasn't done that well in the NCAA tournament, losing to teams that literally probably should be playing Division III in many circumstances. So what I've done is bet against Kentucky in the tournament games and also in the brackets. And I've done very well. I've done extremely well from a monetary standpoint, betting against Corey's teams, and also extremely well just being able to poke fun of them, especially in front of the staff. So last week, as I was contemplating what I was going to do when it comes to the Kentucky Derby, as you may know, and I know Corey shared a lot of it on our last podcast, they take the Derby extremely seriously. I listened to the podcast and found out they close schools. I found out, they go, I think it's like a 3 or 4 day run. And it seems that every single person that lives in the Louisville or Kentucky area knows something about horse racing. Okay. Now me, I used to, because I had a degenerate uncle that would take me to the horse track every Sunday. But I'll have to be honest, I don't know much. I don't know that this is a Japanese horse versus a European horse versus whatever, right? A local horse. So I happened to listen to the podcast, and Corey, you want to tell everyone who your picks were? You gave a specific bet. You want to just share with the folks what your bet was?
Yeah, so normally in big races, I like to bet what's called a trifecta, and then to cover all my bases, you box it, which means you just bet every combination. And when you're betting horse racing, you're always looking for value, right? You're looking for value in the marketplace. You look for value in horse betting. So I always like to go with one favorite, one lower odd that can kind of come in that second or third spot. And then I like to throw in a longer shot, because when you do that, Adam, you accumulate odds, and that's how you get the payout. So you're not necessarily betting the horse that you think can win. You're making a value proposition based on, okay, I could bet $1 or $2 here and do very nice. So under that framework, I put together the trifecta box of Sierra Leone, Forever Young, and Mystic Dan.
And what were their numbers? Just so it just makes it easier for me.
Yeah, I believe it was the 3, 2, and the 11 was the way it came out.
Okay.
Yeah, with Mystic Dan being the 3, Forever Young being the 11, and I'm pretty sure Sierra Leone was the 2.
Okay. So I happened to listen to it, and I also like to bet a box, because you never know, right? Especially in any race, you could win by a nose, lose by a nose, etc. So I said to myself, you know what? Why not just listen to what Corey said? And I decided to bet a total of $100 on the 3, 2, 11 trifecta box. So basically, it's really $33, if it was just a plain trifecta. The race is run. I'm watching it with my family, and I was shocked. The race is over, and it was a photo finish. But there was no question as to who the first three horses were. It was just who was first or who was second or who was third. And I said to myself, did I just win tens of thousands of dollars right now? And I waited 5 minutes, and my wife's like, did you win? Did you win? My kids are like, did you win? And my wife always makes me bet the 8 because that's her favorite number, right? So I put a lot of money on the 8 as well, which was not involved, so I lost all that money. But then I realized how much money I had won, and I said, oh my goodness, I have to make sure I take care of Corey, thanking him for the bet because I otherwise would not have won that bet. And the first thing I texted him was, how much money did you win? And your response, Corey?
My response was, Adam, that I chickened out at the end and I switched from Mystic Dan to Chasing Freedom. Now, for longer commentary on this is what over information will do for you. The morning of the Derby, I'm catching up on some podcasts. I listened to Pardon My Take, which is out of the Northeast, originally from Barstool. They have in Randy Moss, right? Not wide receiver Randy Moss, of course, horse racing expert Randy Moss. And one of the questions they asked him were, if you were choosing a long shot, how does Mystic Dan look? Randy Moss, world-renowned horse expert. And Randy Moss said that something to the effect of, he had a better chance of winning the Derby in these conditions than Mystic Dan. So with that information, I sat down about 5 minutes to post, and I decided, you know what? Randy Moss knows more about horses than I do. I like Chasing Freedom, still a little bit of a longer shot. I'm going to go with the Chasing Freedom, Sierra Leone, Forever Young trifecta box instead, even though I have publicly recommended a different trifecta on the Phia podcast.
So just to make sure I'm correct, you tell all the followers, all of our loyal listeners, you're telling them what to bet. You're telling them to spend their hard-earned money to follow your recommendations. And then you don't even follow your own recommendations. You follow a retired wide receiver's recommendation. Would you mind sharing how much did you bet on that trifecta?
It was a $5 trifecta.
Okay, so why don't you tell the audience roughly how much money you would have won if you did the bet as you originally stated?
The trifecta that I gave on the Phia podcast paid out $1,000 to one. So the $1 ticket paid off $1,100. A $5 ticket would have paid off of around $6,000.
$6,000. So folks, just so you know, I Venmo'd Corey a piece of my winnings. And I still haven't told my family how much I won because I don't want them to know how much I won on the race. I just want to make sure. But folks, the one time I actually followed Corey's advice, went with his team, went with his picks, he doesn't even follow. So you wonder why Kentucky continues to lose in the tournament every year. Just bet against them, Corey. Bet against them, and you'll win. That's all you got to do.
New coach Adam, new era. To add insult to injury, Adam, Chasing Freedom came in fourth. Mystic Dan came in first. Do you want to know what the $1 super paid off if I would have just boxed a $1 super on the top four horses?
So basically, if you followed Randy Moss' advice, but then combined it with your own advice, like we do here at Phia, right? Not one person at Phia makes decisions in regards to advisory opinions, regulatory ideas, etc. We work as a team. So if you follow the Phia approach and listen to Randy Moss and also listen to your own gut, how much would you have won on a $1 bet?
A $1 bet paid out $8,400 for the superfecta, which means if I would have done the $5 bet, Adam, it would have been a $25,000 day.
I'm so happy that you're so bad at this, because if you were good at it, you wouldn't be working here. You wouldn't be on this podcast. I want you to continue to do what you're doing. Keep not following your actual gut. But folks, when it comes to everything outside of sports, he does exactly what he's supposed to do. He doesn't come up with this advisory opinion or this legal strategy in regards to how we work on, a balanced bill resolution or how we negotiate $1 million claim. he actually follows the expert advice. And if all of you would listen to Corey, as I did, when it comes to his advice relating to claim negotiations and figuring out how to deal with large hospital bills, you'll be millionaires too. So at the end of the day, Corey, just start following your actual advice that you're giving to all the listeners, all the people across the country that value your opinion when it comes to self-funded plans. I think they'll value your opinions when it comes to the Derby as well.
Duly noted, and I can't wait to give my Preakness picks, which I'm sure will be terrible.
And I can't wait to actually bet your Preakness picks while you don't. Okay, folks, we spent a lot of time on that, but I thought it was really important that we did so. But I want to bring up something really quick that has been bugging me for a while. As a company that has grown from nothing to where we are today, what I realize is there are many things that we tried, right? Ideas, methodologies that when you're small, nobody notices, okay? If I have one claim that I decide to price for one particular random hospital in the middle of nowhere, and I decide, to put forth a rare legal argument or to bring up ideas or theories that really don't have a lot of backing behind them, but maybe I feel that that particular facility doesn't have the legal expertise internally to fight back. You could probably get away with doing certain things that literally potentially could be illegal or not compliant. Or at best case scenario, there's a lot of gray area, right, behind the legal theory. What I'm seeing in our industry now is there are so many new fly-by-night organizations, whether they're vendors, whether they're MGUs, whoever, that based on the fact that our legal compliance and regulatory world when it comes to self-funding has a lot of gray area. That's the way we attract attorneys to come work here. One of the best ways to attract an attorney is to tell them, listen, here's your options. You got an offer to work in an estate, planning law firm where the laws have not changed in literally 75 years. There is no gray area. You follow the path. This is the fact pattern. This is how it applies. Done. Literally, it's like building a Lego set. You follow the instructions. Imagine taking that same Lego set, but not having an instruction manual. That's self-funding regulation. There are theories, there are opinions that are so off course, so widespread, that basically it's the Wild West. I love to say that to people. So what happens is there are brokers, there are experts, there are consultants that go to conferences and they hear about our new service or they hear a product and they're like, wow, I've never done that before. Maybe we should try it. And the company that's pitching it will say, we've been doing this for 3 years. No pushback, no issues. It's perfect. Well, when I ask the question, how big are you? When you say you have no pushback, no issues, well, we represent 10,000 lives nationwide so far. I'm like, well, I guarantee you, if it's 1 million lives and you're doing the same exact process, you're going to get pushback. You're going to get attorneys that threaten lawsuits that say, this is not legal. You cannot do this or that. When you're small, you can do a lot of things because they're under the radar. You have one claim that you're dealing with the hospital, you might get away with it. But try doing that same exact process 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times. Eventually, someone's going to notice. And that's what we're seeing. We're getting so many questions, concern. People literally texted me at 10 o'clock at night saying, Adam, help, we're getting sued. And when I look at the product or the service and how they implemented it, what the advisory opinions say, there is none. They said it would work. We put it in place. We didn't hear anything for a year. And all of a sudden, 2 years later, we're getting sued for $35 million for underpayment of claims. These are all in-network claims, as an example. I have seen too many people's careers literally lost because they're trying to save money for their clients. They're passionate. They're innovative. But they're not putting enough emphasis on, is it legal? Is it compliant? Does it follow the regulatory rules? Does it follow the current contracts that particular administrator has? And it's causing many issues that are turning people away from self-funding in many circumstances. I just wanted to share that because it's a massive problem. And what I tell people all the time, the difference between Phia and everyone else is here, sure, we have the technology, we have the software, but before we put anything in place, we look, is it legal? What is the gray area? What are the talking points that come back and haunt us? What is it that we have to share with our clients? What do they have to prepare for and put in place to make sure that this new service, new offering, new option will actually work and be successful? So, Corey, just your thoughts on that, if you wouldn't mind, because I'm seeing a lot of it, and it's really starting to scare me.
Yeah, Adam, we have 3 large trees in our backyard, and we've been in this house a couple of years now. And when we bought the house, I was given the business card of the tree service company that they always use to trim these trees because it hangs over a joined fence and kind of over our neighbor's house. If I were to change course and get in with a new tree trimming company that didn't have recommendations, that hadn't been around in the industry for 20, 30 years, that couldn't provide references for their work and how they do things carefully and how they don't have, adverse claims against them and they're fully insured and all of that good stuff, I would be taking a risk, right? I could go with a company that has brand recognition, that knows my house, that knows these trees because they've been servicing them way before that I was the owner of the house, and go with a known entity. Or I could take a chance on someone new, and then all of a sudden I have a homeowner's claim and my trees are dead and my neighbor's fence is taken down. It's a simple example, but if you are responsible, which a lot of our clients are, responsible for the well-being of small business owner health plans or medium-sized business owner health plans, and you aren't doing the same due diligence that you would do with a significant project around your own property or your own house or your own well-being, you're not only doing a disservice to yourself and to your company, but you're doing a disservice to your clients. So when you're in the marketplace and when you're looking for these types of new products, disruptive products, listen, there's a reason that there's so many of these startups coming in the space, right? The US healthcare economy is the 4th largest GDP in the world, larger than most nations. There's money in this industry and everyone is looking to make money and save money. And a lot of times people are looking to make money on saving money ideas. But if these aren't vetted ideas, if this isn't someone you trust, if this is someone that has popped up out of nowhere with a big bang, you really need to do your due diligence and you really need to make sure that the person that you're going into business with has the same core values of you, has the same mission as you, and is really looking not just to make a quick buck in an opportunistic fashion, but find someone who really sees the problem in the healthcare industry, wants to provide a solution that works best for everyone, and wants to make the healthcare industry better while also providing a good, valuable service that can pay off for them as well. I think that if you run through a normal checklist of criteria and you're vetting your vendors, then you can rest your head at night knowing that you've done everything you can. But just be wary of these pop-up, fly-by-night, great term, shops with a brand new service that's never been heard before, that's never been vetted, that's really kind of iffy. You can really get yourself in trouble in a quick way.
So what he's basically saying, folks, is don't just listen to Randy Moss. Get more opinions. It's so funny. I always tell myself, 15, 20 minutes, that'd be easy, no problem. I always end up going overtime. So I know at the beginning of this, we said, all right, we're going to bring up 3 or 4 different topics. We don't have enough time. So because I enjoy my time with Corey so much, he makes me feel so good, right? I do. I feel great. I always know I have more money in my pocket when he's around. Things are always great. Corey, would you agree to do a part 2? Because I know there's other things we want to bring up. Would that be all right with you, bud?
Adam, nothing would make me happier than coming back for a part 2 of this podcast.
He is so full of it. He is so full of it, folks. But that's okay. So listen, on behalf of Corey and myself, thank you also, Pat Santos, our great producer. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. Stay tuned. Be ready for part 2. But thank you for empowering your plans with Phia. Talk soon.